The hum of the airplane engines filled the cabin like a distant lullaby. Emily Carter, a 35-year-old woman from Chicago, settled into her seat in row 10. She had boarded the red-eye flight from New York to Los Angeles, exhausted from a long week of meetings. Her eyes fluttered shut as the plane taxied down the runway. The soft blanket she pulled over her lap felt like a warm embrace. Little did she know, this ordinary flight would soon demand something extraordinary from her. Emily had always been a creature of routine. She worked as a software engineer by day, but her past held secrets few knew. Years ago, she had served in the Air Force as a combat pilot, flying missions over distant lands. Those days felt like another lifetime now. She had left the military to start a family, but life had other plans. Her husband, Mark, had passed away 2 years earlier in a car accident, leaving her to raise their young son, Tommy, alone. Tonight, Tommy was safe with her sister back home. Emily just wanted to sleep through the flight and wake up to the California sunrise. The plane lifted off smoothly, climbing into the night sky. Passengers around her chatted softly or scrolled through their phones. The flight attendants moved down the aisle with drinks and snacks. Emily adjusted her neck pillow and drifted into a deep slumber. Dreams came gently, images of Tommy laughing in the park, Mark's smile under the summer sun. The world outside faded away. About an hour into the flight, somewhere over the Midwest, the first hint of trouble stirred. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, calm but firm. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're experiencing some minor technical issues with our navigation systems. Nothing to worry about yet, but we're working on it." A few passengers exchanged glances, but most shrugged it off. Emily stirred slightly but didn't wake. The engines droned on, steady and reassuring. In the cockpit, things were less serene. Captain Robert Hayes, a veteran pilot with over 20 years of experience, furrowed his brow. The primary navigation computer had glitched, and the backup wasn't responding as expected. Co-pilot Sarah Jenkins checked the instruments again. "Bob, this doesn't look good. We're losing altitude slowly. If we can't fix this, we might need to divert." The plane was a modern Boeing 737, equipped with all the latest tech, but tonight, that tech was failing them. Outside, storm clouds gathered, adding to the unease. Back in the cabin, the atmosphere shifted subtly. The lights dimmed for the night, but a low murmur spread among the awake passengers. An elderly couple in row 9 held hands tightly. A businessman in row 11 typed furiously on his laptop, perhaps emailing loved ones. Emily remained oblivious, her breathing slow and even. She dreamed of flying not in a passenger jet, but in her old F-16, soaring through clear skies. As minutes ticked by, the problem escalated. The plane began to shudder faintly, a vibration that rippled through the seats. Captain Hayes made another announcement. "Folks, we're dealing with a system malfunction. Our team is on it, but for safety, we're preparing for an emergency landing. Please remain seated and follow the crew's instructions." Now, worry rippled visibly. A child a few rows back started to cry. Flight attendants moved with practiced calm, securing loose items and reassuring everyone. Emily woke with a start, her heart pounding. She blinked, disoriented, as the seatbelt sign glowed brightly. "What's going on?" she murmured to the man next to her, a quiet accountant named David from Seattle. He leaned over. "Some kind of technical issue. The captain says it's under control, but it doesn't feel that way." Emily nodded, rubbing her eyes. She glanced out the window at the dark clouds swirling below. A familiar knot formed in her stomach, at a kind she hadn't felt since her combat days. In the cockpit, tension mounted. The autopilot had disengaged, and manual controls were responding sluggishly. "We need help up here," Captain Hayes said to Sarah. "The hydraulics are acting up too. If we don't get this stabilized, we're in real trouble." He paused, weighing his options. Then, he reached for the intercom again. His voice echoed through the cabin, steady but urgent. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Hayes. Is there any combat pilots on board? We could use some expertise in the cockpit right now." A hush fell over the passengers. Eyes darted around, searching for a hero in their midst. Emily froze. Combat pilots? Her mind raced back to her service via dogfights in the desert, emergency landings under fire. She hadn't flown a plane in years, let alone a commercial jet. But the call felt personal, like fate tapping her on the shoulder. Slowly, she unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. "I'm a former Air Force combat pilot," she said, her voice clear despite the nerves. A flight attendant nearby nodded and escorted her forward. As Emily made her way to the cockpit, passengers watched in quiet awe. Whispers followed her. "Who is she? Can she really help?" The plane dipped slightly, eliciting gasps. Emily's steps were measured, her training kicking in. She thought of Tommy, his bright eyes waiting for her at home. This wasn't just about her, it was about everyone on board. Captain Hayes greeted her at the door. "Ma'am, thank you for stepping up. I'm Robert Hayes." "What's your experience?" Emily introduced herself. "Emily Carter, Captain. Flew F-16s in the Middle East. Over 500 combat hours. It's been a while, but I know my way around emergencies." Hayes nodded, relief in his eyes. "We need that. Our systems are failing in navigation and hydraulics. If you can help troubleshoot, we might avoid a crash landing." Inside the cockpit, the array of lights and screens felt both familiar and foreign. Sarah handed her a headset. "Glad you're here, Emily." The three of them huddled, voices low and focused. Outside, lightning flashed in the distance, thunder rumbling like a warning. The plane's altitude continued to drop slowly, the air growing thicker with tension. Emily scanned the panels. "Let's check the backup hydraulics first. In my jets, we'd isolate the fault like this." She pointed to a switch, her hands steady. Hayes followed her lead, flipping controls. Minutes stretched like hours. Passengers in the cabin held their breath, the earlier murmurs now silent prayers. David, her seatmate, clutched his armrests, thinking of his family. Suddenly, a breakthrough. "There," Emily said. The auxiliary pump was bypassed incorrectly. "Reroute it through the secondary line." Hayes made the adjustment. The shuttering eased, and the plane leveled out. Cheers erupted faintly from the cabin as the flight attendants relayed the good news. But it wasn't over yet. Navigation was still offline. "We need to fly manual to the nearest airport," Emily suggested. "Omaha's closing. I've landed there before in simulations." The team worked in sync, Emily's combat instincts guiding them through the storm. Rain pelted the windshield as they descended. Tension peaked as the runway lights appeared below, flickering through the clouds. "Brace for impact if needed," Hayes announced over the intercom. Hearts raced. Emily gripped the co-pilot's yoke, assisting Sarah with the controls. "Steady. Easy now," she whispered. The wheels touched down with a jolt, but the landing was smoother, safer than anyone expected. The plane taxied to a stop, emergency vehicles rushing to meet them. Applause filled the cabin, a wave of relief washing over everyone. As passengers disembarked, many stopped to thank Emily. "You're a hero," an elderly woman said, tears in her eyes. Emily smiled humbly. "Just doing what I was trained for." Captain Hayes shook her hand firmly. "You saved us all tonight, Emily." "Thank you." Back on solid ground, Emily called home. Tommy's voice lit up the line. "Mom, are you okay?" She choked back emotion. "Yes, buddy, I'll be home soon." The night had reminded her of her strength, buried but not gone. She had faced fear before and war, in Lhasa, and emerged stronger. In the days that followed, the story made headlines. Passenger pilot saves flight. Emily returned to her quiet life, but with a renewed sense of purpose. She started volunteering at a local aviation club, teaching young pilots about resilience. Life's emergencies come unannounced, she realized, but so do our hidden strengths. If you've ever doubted your own capabilities, remember Emily's story. Step up when called. You might just change everything. Reach out to a veteran support group today, or learn a new skill. Heroes are made in moments like these.